Hey everybody, Dave here. Today we are going to use Power Automate Desktop to automate RPAchallenge.com. That's right, Dave is using a non-Blue Prism RPA tool. What I want to do is start broadening my experience. I have worked in some other RPA tools as far as I shouldn't say worked. I've played in other RPA tools, but it was all for funsies. I'm going to start using some other RPA tools and actually putting videos on YouTube. Hopefully, I can make myself do this. So hopefully what I can end up doing is Power Automate Desktop, and then maybe Work Fusion, then Automation Anywhere, maybe UiPath, doing both Studio X and Studio, and then maybe I can go into some of the lesser known RPA tools as well. I am really excited about this, and I did try out Power Automate Desktop earlier today just to make sure that I could actually do it, and I had to do a fair amount of Googling to figure out certain things and reading the documentation. You can, in fact, automate RPAchallenge.com. Now, before I actually start, let me just point out what we have on the screen. This is Power Automate Desktop. It's in preview right now, meaning it's like in alpha or beta. I don't really know what preview is supposed to mean, but it's an early release of a tool that they'll eventually consider to be kind of a final version and ready, stable, or whatever. I totally get it being called in preview because it is not super stable right now. Understand, it's a very good tool in my opinion, but there are features, entire features missing that need to be added, and I'm sure over time it will get there. It also crashes now and then, but so do other tools. It has some kinks to work out. So today I'm using Power Automate Desktop. That is a desktop application that I downloaded from Microsoft. Download Power Automate Desktop. You can go to the first link. So right at the top, you should see a link that says download free. You can click that and then it'll automatically download to your desktop. You can install the application. When you open it up, you're going to have to sign in with some kind of account. So I think it gives you a few options. And what I went with is my Microsoft account that I use to log into my home machine. There's no license restrictions or anything as far as using this tool on your desktop. Power Automate Desktop is an RPA tool. It's a robotic process automation tool. It is primarily used for automating the user interface of a desktop. If you're not needing to click on the user interface, you might be able to just use Power Automate, which is Microsoft's business process automation. So instead of robotic process automation, which is Power Automate Desktop, you could use Power Automate. Those two can be used in tandem, where Power Automate can kick off an automation in Power Automate Desktop. And that's kind of how you get that unattended automation version of Power Automate Desktop. How you implement that is not for me to answer right now because I'm not experienced with this tool yet. But from what I read, I don't know if they changed the licensing or not. They've been changing a lot of things lately, but I can say that most likely it's going to cost as far as getting at least Power Automate, if not also a license for unattended automations in Power Automate Desktop. As far as attended automations go, that is, you build something that you open up this interface right here, this console, and you click start on one of your automations, and then it'll run right on your desktop. That is completely free for you if you have Windows 10. Let's start building now in Power Automate Desktop to automate RPAchallenge.com. What I'm going to do is click New Flow, and then I'm going to type the name of this. We'll call it RPAchallenge.com. Let's click Create, and then after a few seconds, a second window is going to pop up, and then this is where we build everything in. This is our development environment. It's very simple, actually. On the left side, we've got all of our actions. So that name actually matches up to Blue Prism, whereas UiPath calls them activities. These are all the things you might want to do, such as interact with a file system, or you might need to send an email, or perhaps you need to split a PDF into multiple pages, or something like that. All of the different types of actions are available on the left side. Now, if you are a Blue Prism developer, I should point out that there is a concept of application modeler in Power Automate Desktop, but you don't build processes and objects. Everything is built in what are called flows, which is what I'd call a process, but it's really just a combination of what processes and objects can do because the application model is going to be right inside this flow as well. This automation should go to RPAchallenge.com. So let's go look at that. RPAchallenge.com. We've got Power Automate Desktop on the left side, RPAchallenge.com on the right side that we want to automate. This is open in Chrome. What we need to do first is get our Excel data, bring it into Power Automate Desktop into our flow. And then once we have that, then we can start looping through that data and entering it into this website. So if you haven't seen rpachallenge.com, let me point out what its functionality is. You basically just go to rpachallenge.com and then you can type really whatever you want into these different fields and then hit submit. And it's just going to refresh the page, but it's also going to reorganize these text fields. You'll see that the labels will change location whenever I go and click submit. So notice that the first name is the bottom. And when I submit and then I come back in, you'll see now that first name is over down here. The idea is they're giving you a challenge to make sure that you can build an automation or to make sure an RPA tool is capable of one or both of the two could be the reason, but they're making sure that it's capable of adjusting to labels changing location. So the blank related to a label is always just beneath it, but you don't know where the label is going to be on the page. So you can't use the XPath, the specific location in the web page of where that label is, because it's not a static thing. For the input to this, we don't have to make up the data ourselves. You can click this download button and it will give you an Excel spreadsheet that has something like 11 or 12 different rows of data. So let me show you what that looks like. So assume that I've downloaded this. I've already changed a couple things about it. Let me actually show you that. So I'm going to hit download and then I'm going to open it up, hit enable edit. And then let me show you the things that I changed. I'm not actually going to use this sheet for my testing and stuff, but I know that there's already a couple of issues. So ordinarily I might make an automated way inside of the process flow to fix this. But in my case here, I just don't really want to deal with the problems because that's just creating extra work for me. And that's not the fun part. So I'm going to change the name of this last name field by hitting backspace at the end of it. There's like an extra space there. And then also this column H, you see how it's kind of wider? It's because this probably used to have data in it. At some point, somebody deleted the data, but when I go and both I think Blue Prism and Power Automate Desktop think that there's data here, so it will actually pull the data in. And I don't feel like making an automated way to delete that column because I'm lazy. So I'm going to right click on the whole column and hit delete. And so that effectively fixes that problem. And then we've got the same problem at the bottom where if I left it like this and I read in the data, it's going to end up having 1,000 rows, because I'm guessing there used to be data down here in this section. So what you can do is click on the row right here, and then you can hit Control Shift down, and that will select everything. You can right click, hit delete, and that will just delete everything. It doesn't look any different, but I'm telling you, after you do that, when you go and read the data in now into a collection or a data table, it's only going to have these rows instead of 1,000 rows. Okay, so that's some changes that I made. All right, so here's where I've saved it, C:\test, and the name of the file is challenge.xlsx. I'll open this up and just show you that it is in fact the same thing. Okay, it's kind of off the screen. So this looks the same, right, is what I just showed you. This is actually a different file though that I saved earlier. So now that's the information that you might want to know before you start kind of building this yourself, because I did change some of those things about the Excel input file. So if you were to go and just download and try to start working with it, you might have some errors. You'll want to do those 3 things that I just mentioned. Let's go ahead and get data out of Excel now. Let me point out, okay, I did Google some of these things. So if this doesn't seem intuitive to you, I'm right with you. This is kind of strange, but it makes sense. It's just like anything. It makes sense after you've done it. But I'm going to show you how to get data out of Excel. It's very simple, but there's some slight oddness to it. We'll get the data out of Excel and then put it into a data table, which Power Automate Desktop is effectively going to create for us automatically. So let's go over and look in the Excel group. And what I need to do first is let's drag and drop Launch Excel onto the main, and let's just change the Launch Excel option to Launch Excel and open the following document. All right, let's click the select file to choose a document. We'll go to C:\test, choose the challenge.xlsx, and then let's make the instance not visible. Notice that it's going to output an Excel instance that we can use. Let's click Save. And then close Excel, I'm going to go ahead and put in now, and you'll see that Power Automate Desktop automatically puts in a variable named Excel instance because that's the natural naming convention that it used for the output earlier. Let me click cancel and show you. This is what it was named here, Excel instance. And so it's automatically creating the variable for the input here, which I think is really awesome. Now, before closing the Excel, do I want to save the document? No, I don't want to save the document. Let's hit save. Okay, so now we've got launch Excel and close Excel. That's kind of our wrapper for handling Excel stuff. And then inside that, we are going to need to get data. Now, I already know there are two actions we need for this, but let's get the one that's really obvious. We need to read from Excel worksheet. Is that what we want to do? Retrieve values from a range of cells. Okay, this looks right to me. So start column, notice the Excel instance is already there. That's cool. So start column, we probably want to do 0. I think it's going to be 0 or maybe A. I think we can actually type A. So let's type A. Start row is going to be, let's go with 0 because it's probably 0 index based. Honestly, I do not remember single cells value or a first row number. So it might actually be 1, but it'll tell us an error if that's wrong. Okay, so the end column, this is where it gets slightly weird. So in Excel, when you're referencing cell columns and you want to go this column to this column, but I want everything, I think what you can do is like A:A, like that. But this doesn't work here. So you have to tell it the start column and then the end column. I could put something like, ZZ, and that would pull a whole bunch of columns, but I want it to only pull the data that's actually there. So in this case, what we need to do is look in the Excel spreadsheet to get where the last column is. So the way that I found Microsoft wants you to do this is to find the next open or the next free column, find the location of that. So that'd be like, if you opened the Excel spreadsheet, you see that H is a free column, it's an open column. That's the number that we would get back when we ask for it. Now we want to subtract 1 from that so that this would be the last column that we get. And then we get all of these. And that makes sense to me. But getting this number and then subtracting 1 from it was actually far more difficult than I expected it to be. And the same thing for the rows. We want to get the first row that is free and then subtract 1 so that we get this as our last row. Let's close this. Now, the end column, to get this, we're going to have to create a variable and put a value into that using another action. So let's click save for now. It's going to give us an error at the moment. And then what we need to do is right here, it's called get first free column / row from Excel worksheet. So we want to put that right before read from Excel worksheet. And this is using the Excel instance, so that works. Now it says variables produced. It's going to give us first free column, which is going to be an integer probably. Yep. And then first free row, which is also going to be an integer. And so it's going to tell us those things that we just talked about. Which one's the first free column, which one's the first free row, and we're going to subtract 1 from each of those to get our last row and our last column. Let's click save, and then we're going to get these variables. What are those variables called again? First free row, first free column, and first free row. And we need to use those as inputs to this. So let's hit, actually we can click this X over here to help us create it. So let's click first free column and first free row. Now here's the part that I messed up on. I before was putting, to me it made sense. I'd put -1 right here because I thought this indicates a variable, like that the percent sign before and after some text indicated a variable, which in a way it does, but what it actually means is I think anything inside of that is a calculation or an expression. So rather than these being a marker for a variable, they just go around what might be some kind of calculation. What we actually need to do is put -1 inside of here. If anybody's watching this and you have a great explanation for this, feel free to put it in the comments for the rest of us to benefit from. I will eventually do more experimenting with this. It'll probably make perfect sense to me, but right now this is new to me. So right here, we need to put -1 as well. And now we should get the correct input that we want for the end column and end row. Do we want to change any advanced settings? Get cell contents as text. I would say yes, we want to get it as text. First line of range contains column names. That is true. And then the variables produced is going to be Excel data. So this looks like it's going to be a data table named Excel data. I'll click save. And then at this point, we probably should go ahead and test this. So let's save. Click OK. And then I'm going to hit run action by action. Run next step. So when you hit it the first time, it kind of goes into the mode of running step by step. And so it doesn't actually run any of the stages. You have to hit it one more time and it'll actually run the first stage or the first action. So in this case, it launched Excel, but it's in the background, so we can't see it on the screen. I'm going to hit run next step again. This should give us the first free column and row from Excel. And you can actually see the data go right here into these data items. So the first free column is in 8. First free row is at 12. And then we would expect to subtract 1 from each of those. Now read from Excel worksheet. Now here's where we might get an error if I was supposed to put 1 in place of the column that we start at. So let's see. Yep. So main, it said failed to read cell values. That's not very helpful. Exception has been thrown by the target of an invocation. I swear, if I have to read that error one more time in my life, I'm going to lose my mind. All right, look. I don't know why it's giving us all this stuff, but what I think is that I was supposed to put 1 instead of 0. So let's try that. Let's hit, did we already stop? We already stopped, I think. Okay, let's open up read from Excel worksheet and let's put start row as 1. And then if it fails now, then maybe I can't put A instead of the column. Okay, here we go. Run action by action. Let's run launch Excel. Oh, I wonder if Excel was still open. It was in the background, so I couldn't see it. Let's hit step again and step again. Okay, so it worked this time. It got 10 rows of data. Let's actually go into this. We can double click on it, which I think is pretty cool. And you can see the data that's inside of it. So you can see it got first name, last name, company name, rolling company, address, email, phone number. Is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fields? And it got 9 rows of data. Is that correct? So the last row is Laura Palmer. Let's go open up. Actually, let's close Excel by stepping one more time. And now it should have finished. And Excel shouldn't be open anymore. Let's open up challenge. Okay. I had to run end task on Microsoft Excel in the background. So now I can open up this spreadsheet. So there's a good reason to make sure that you go ahead and have it show up visible on the screen while you're testing, so that if it fails in the middle of working with Excel, then you can click the close button on Excel. So it's not just hanging open, but you know, we all make mistakes. Okay. So it looks like the last row is Laura. We have our actions related to getting data from Excel, and it looks like we are good to go now. We open Excel, find out the range that we need, read the data, close Excel, and then we have it in a data table. Let's save in case we've changed some things. Next thing we have to do is launch Chrome, go to rpachallenge.com, and then close Chrome. So let's just build that out. Let's type launch new Chrome, launch mode, launch new instance. That's what I want. Initial URL, I want it to be http://rpachallenge.com. The Windows state, I guess I'll just leave as normal. Hopefully that will work and it'll open up in the last state that I left it in, because I want it to stay on the top left of my screen where I'm recording this. So let's go ahead and check some of these advanced things. We do want it to wait for the page to load. Let's hit save. Oh, notice it gives me a variable called browser so that I can use that to interact with the right browser. Okay, and then next I want to go ahead. I always like to close up what I have opened. So let's go with close web browser. And it's going to be the browser instance. Let's hit save. So it's going to launch Chrome, go to rpachallenge.com, and then it's going to close the browser. Let's go ahead and test that. So let's save, hit OK. Now I already have it open, so I'm going to hit close. And let's run this. Okay, so we got no errors. We don't know that anything actually ran quite perfectly or not, but we know that it appeared to at least. So let's move on to spying the web page. This is going to bring us to the second part that is a little bit strange and I had to do some Googling for. We're going to put everything between launch and close. Let's go ahead and put a breakpoint on close web browser. And I'm going to right click on launch new Chrome and hit run from here. Now you might ask, well, how do I get started from here? So in Blue Prism, we build an application model at this point. And I think that's what we'll do here as well. So let me show you sort of the application model feature that's actually called UI elements. I'm going to click add UI element. And from what I've found, it tends to add the right kind of element that you need based upon what you're clicking on. What I'm going to do is click this, but then we're just going to throw out entirely the selectors that it gives us. So let's hold Control and left click. Okay, and so what it would have done, oh, you know what we can do? Yeah, this is what we want. Okay, so I clicked it once and I'm going to hit done now because I happen to already know the way that I want to handle this. Let's make this screen a little bigger so I can view this better. Over here, this is kind of our application model, UI elements. I'm going to right click on this element that's underneath. Well, now is this? Edit selectors. Let's make sure. Okay, now this did not actually spy this the way that I wanted. Yeah, this looks to me like it's using UI automation mode. So let's try that one more time. I'm going to hit add UI element and I'm going to hover over this. Done. So this time it used web automation modes because you can see it split it up into two different sections. There's pane, like it's dealing with a desktop, like a Windows desktop thing. And then there's also web page because it recognizes it as a browser. I don't know why it did that. If you know, please put in the comments and I'll learn something. But I have found that I just have to respy a couple of times until it eventually recognizes the element I'm clicking on as being an HTML element. I'm going to right click on this and rename this first name. And then I'm going to go in and edit the selectors. Now this, you would normally come in here and you'd edit all this stuff to narrow down to the specific attributes and elements and whatnot that you want. And this works great, except that at least I did not find that using this functionality would work for rpachallenge.com because it requires you to have a sort of dynamic anchor capability. And this is the thing I brought up that Blue Prism doesn't have. So in Blue Prism, I had to go find the label. Let me go over and click the website. I had to find the label for, let's say, first name. And then once I found that, I could retrieve the DOM path, the X path, the location of this on the page. Once I got that back, then I could adjust that X path and I could put a little bit more on the end of it to make it point specifically to the text field that is associated with that label. It's kind of like that in this tool, but it's actually much easier. However, I have no idea how I would ever have come to this conclusion except for Google. Okay, so I just Googled this and here's what I found you could do. I'm gonna hit custom so that I can just type whatever I want into this. And I'm gonna type, let's see if I can remember this right. I might get it wrong and have to look it up. Let's see. So if I remember right, I had to type, I think it was div : and then type contains. And I think it was in parentheses with single quotes. And I could type the name of the field. So first name. And then you could, I don't know if this is called piping in this syntax. It's probably called something entirely different. But the idea is you first find a div that contains first name. Then I guess beneath that or attached to that, you find an input. Okay. So there's only one input text field for every label. And since on here, the word, the text first name is only here this one time, it's not really a problem. Now, first name was also said other places in the web page. I think I'd have to adjust this and it would have to be better. But this works for such a simplistic web page anyways. And it shows that there is probably a lot more functionality that exists. Now, if this is just inherent to JavaScript, or maybe this is like jQuery or something like that, great. But Dave didn't know that this was a thing until Dave Googled it. I'm just admitting that to you. I'm sorry. Now let's hit update. Let's just do add UI element. And I'm just going to spy the same field over and over again until we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 elements. Okay, let's do first name. We got to make sure it does input text. Oh, I can do them all at once. Look at me go. Okay, let's do it again. And it's going slow. Okay, let's do this again. And now we have 4 total fields. We want 3 more. Now, this is the final time that we need this field. And we're going to let it kind of stop freaking out. Okay, and let me click done. So now we have 7 fields, if I counted that right. And I'm going to rename each of these to match the field names that I want to work with. So I'm going to right click, rename UI element. Wait, there's a shortcut? Hold on. F2. Hold up. Okay. Right click. No, can I just click it and hit F2? Oh, that's cool. Okay. Last name. F2. Oh, that's not bad. Phone number. Oh, no. That's not what I had selected. Okay. F2. So first name, last name, phone number, email. I have to click this twice. Okay. We don't want company name yet. We want address. Company name. No. That's not what I'm. Okay. All right. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. Roll in company. All right. And so that's our elements, but only the first one is configured. So let me open this up. Edit selector, and let's copy this and go into each of the others and change them to custom. Paste this and we'll type last name, update, close, go to a phone number, edit selectors, hit the button, edit selector, change to custom. I'm actually confused. Does visual editor mean if I hit this, I'll go to visual editor? And when I click, like with this, it means if I click this, it'll go back to custom. That's not very intuitive. All right. We're not here to make fun of the tool. Like, I literally can't go a day without making fun of whatever tool I'm using that day. What was I working with? Phone number, I think. Email. Maybe I should have made sure this works before I did all this work for all these. Oh, well. Here we are. Was it email? Address. Company name. And then update, close. Let's open up roll in company and do the last one. Change it to custom, overwrite, roll in company, update, close. Okay. I think, and unless I did something wrong, that's all the effort that was required for these elements to now be dynamic. So it doesn't matter where on the page they are, the label will be found by doing the contain, div contains the text, and then the input field from that will then be used. Let's delete this other one that we don't need. Whoops. Delete, yes. Okay, let's close the UI elements window. And now what we can do is drop in the actions that we need to type into here. I don't remember what they're called though. So it's something to do with web automation. So let me go to the web automation area. And I don't think it's in the main section. So let's go into web form filling. There we go. Populate text field on web page. So I'm going to drag that and drop it into between the launch and close actions. It's already got the browser instance. I need to choose the UI element that I want to type into. So let's choose the first name field. And then what I need to type into here is actually the first name. So we've got to get that from Excel. And so it occurs to me that we actually don't have the loop that we need. So I may come back and type that in a minute. So let's click save. And we'll leave this one first as our test to make sure that things are working with the loop when we add that in. All right, so we need a loop somehow through the Excel data. Okay, let's think about this. It's in a data table, and we could do a for each loop. So for each, let's put the for each, okay, let's see. We don't want to launch Chrome every time that we fill in the form, so let's put the for each just after that. What value do we want to iterate? Well, we want to iterate over the Excel data. So here's our Excel data, and it says the variables produced is going to be current item. Personally, that doesn't, I think that's just a generic variable name. So I'm going to say Excel row and then hit save. So I guess I should mention, I don't know if you're, how many people are comfortable with this or just already know this, but typically in any programming language, when you're dealing with objects that contain other objects inside them, when you do a for each loop over the main one, it's just going to break it down to the next lowest level object. And I happen to know that data tables in C# and stuff, which I guess this is what this is based on because it's Microsoft, the next lowest level element is a data row and I guess data columns, but I think data rows are the very next thing. So when you iterate, do a for each loop over Excel data, which is a data table, the thing that's in each time you loop, the thing that you refer to is going to be an extracted single data row that will have, in our case, something like 7 fields. Okay, so I've called it Excel row. I'm going to hit save. And then we've got our for each loop. We need to populate the text fields in each loop. So I'm going to drag this populate text field into the for each loop, type something in here. So let's go get our variables that we have access to. Excel row. Because this column name is not super helpful. Okay, that's fine. This is another situation where you probably have to do some Googling if you're not already familiar with it. I had to get the syntax. I could guess what it kind of would probably be, but I wasn't totally sure. So in this case, this is what it is. You've got your Excel row. Because this is what's basically considered an array, you put square brackets at the end of this since it's like an array, and you just put the number of the column that you need to use, or you put the name of the column here. So I'm going to put the name of the column in, I think, single quotes. So let's do first name. So what that's going to do is look for the first name field inside the Excel row. Hit save. And it shouldn't have any more errors. I'm going to hit save in the flow right now so that I don't lose all my work. Let's go ahead and test this once. And what it's going to do is it's going to write the first name from the first row into hopefully this field right here before it stops right here. Put a breakpoint right here. This way it will stop before it tries to input into the web page, and then we can kind of step over it after that. Let's close rpachallenge.com, the browser. Let's hit save one more time because I'm paranoid. Hit run. So it should get our Excel data, and then it should open RPA Challenge. It shouldn't put any data in because it's hit the breakpoint. So now I'm going to hit step, and it should populate the first name field, and you can see it highlighted it for us, even though I didn't ask it to. So that's actually kind of weird, but it's cool. If I hit step again, looks like it's going back up to the top of the for each. It should write a different name in there. Now it's got Jane. Okay, so let's go ahead and take the breakpoint off and run it. So it should just keep cycling through all of the first names. That looks pretty good. Okay, next we've got to add in the rest of the populate text fields, and we've got to click on the submit button as well. So now that I'm thinking about that, let's go back into the UI elements and add this. So let me click. We have to stop our test. Now I can click add UI element, hover over this, hold control, left click, and this looks good. Let's click done, and then let's edit the selectors. First, let's rename it. Submit. Edit the selectors. In this case, I'll probably edit it like normal. Now, you might watch what I do here and think, what is he doing? If you happen to know what you're doing in Power Automate Desktop already, or a tool that is designed like this, Blue Prism does not work this way, so I'm not super comfortable with this interface. But what I think I want is I want to deselect these top levels, because if these things change, I don't want everything beneath it to basically break. So I'm going to deselect all this stuff so it's not tied to any of these attributes or anything. And instead, I just want it to be dependent upon maybe just the last one here. And it has to have a type and value of submit. And then I guess the class, will leave it as UI color button. So I'm going to hit update and we'll just hope that this works. If it doesn't, we'll come back and fix it. Click close. All right, so we should have everything we need. Let me go ahead and drag the button on here. So let's see. It's going to be click. So you could probably use click UI element, but I don't think that's going to work in this case. Let's go back to web automation and see if there's a, here's press button on web page. So that's probably what we want. It's using the browser instance. UI element is going to be submit. And then advanced, we do want to wait for the page to load, although it's already loaded. And then a dialog not going to appear. Let's hit save. And then now that I think about it, when this hits submit, there might be a small period of time for this web page, if it ever goes slow, where it's going to be sitting there trying to refresh the page. It won't have completed yet. And so the form might start getting filled out again. So what I want to do is give it a little bit of a wait. So let's type wait. Normally I like to stay away from arbitrary waits like this, but I'm going to do this anyways. Let's see, is this a number of seconds? Yeah, suspends the execution of the flow for a specified amount of seconds. To save. Okay, so it's going to wait 2 seconds before each time that it goes to fill out the form. I think that what I can do now is copy this populate text field on web page and just duplicate it. So I'm going to do this, so I just did it twice, that's 3 times. I need to do it 4 more times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to edit each of these. So what I need to do is change 2 things in each of these. The UI element needs to point to the next one, last name, and I've got to change the Excel field that it's using to use the next one as well. So last name, hit save. Let's go to, wait, did I just change? I just changed the wrong one. Okay, let me drag this up. Okay, so this is going to be our first name. This will be our last name. Then we'll open up the next one and do phone number, I think. Yep, phone number. Change this to say phone number, save. We'll go to the next one. Open this up. Change UI element to be email. Change this to be email for our field in Excel. Uh-oh, it's going slow. Don't crash. Please don't crash. Please don't do this to me. Not like this. Not like this. I hit save. You can do it. Oh, this is torture. This isn't looking good. What is happening right now? All right, so Power Automate Desktop just nearly lost its mind just now. I don't know what's going on, but it's running extremely slow. You can see my cursor's just moving ever so slow on the screen. what we're going to do now is close the application and open it back up again. Oh, cool. We've encountered a problem. Sorry for the inconvenience. Please close out and try again. Okay. Okay, we are back now. Let's open up our flow again and hope that Power Automate Desktop doesn't nearly crash again. Okay, so where we left off was we just did the populate text field on web page for the first name, last name, phone number. Let's make sure we finished that. Yep. And we want to do email next. Oh, we did email already. Let's go to the next one, which is going to be address. Let's change our Excel field to address. The next one is company name. Change Excel field to company name. The next one, change to Roland Company. And this is the last one. So I think we have finished pretty much everything. I don't know if I've missed anything, but let's just go ahead and run a test because why not? I'm going to hit save. And let's make sure the web page is closed. Here we go. I'm going to hit run. Wait. Yeah, I'm going to hit run. All right, so it's already got the data and it's opened up the web page. It's now entering. Let's watch close and make sure that it is putting the data into the right fields. I think it got all those correct. First name, last name, phone number, email, address, company name, and Roland Company. It's looking good. This is exciting. I mean, this is a pretty good tool. I have to say, I was trying just to automate random applications earlier, even like Discord, and I was shocked how well it can automate basically anything. And I suppose that kind of makes sense because, like, you know, Microsoft made the operating system, so it just makes sense they could also make an RPA tool that's capable of automating the user interface of anything. But I found both Blue Prism and UiPath to just be not very good at automating the user interface of some desktop applications. And personally, I didn't expect them to be very good at those, but maybe I should go back and give them both a try again and just make sure that I'm not crazy, because Power Automate Desktop just did it so well. If Microsoft continues with this tool, making it better, adding more features, listening to user feedback, and implementing features that, especially that the industry really needs, this is going to be a serious contender for top spot of RPA tools. I mean, I'm not a salesman. I don't care about industry trends or, you know, Forrester, you know, blah, 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 Gartner and stuff. There's a lot of articles out there and stuff where people are claiming what's going to be the next big thing and, you know, what's falling behind and who has the best vision and all that stuff. I just personally don't care about that stuff. I'll leave that kind of stuff up to other people. What matters to me is just functionality. Does the thing work really well? I couldn't care less about machine learning and AI. It's great. It's buzzwords. The rest of everybody else can just lose their minds over how awesome that is. But I just want the button clicks to work. And sometimes it is so difficult to just get it to work. Look how much we just did in a short period of time and in a tool that I don't even know very well. Granted, I had to spend some time Googling some of this stuff. But even given that, it's still the same day. And it was only basically a little while ago that I did my first automation at all in Power Automate Desktop. I highly encourage everybody, if you were watching this and you're interested in the slightest bit, go download Power Automate Desktop and start making some stuff. I hope I've helped somebody get past some hurdles, because there were some weird things I had to figure out, especially with Excel, and then finding the elements on the page on rpachallenge.com. If this has helped you, please leave a comment and let me know. I love to hear that people have been helped by this, because it helps me be encouraged to make more automations in the future and record myself making them. Hopefully, I can make this a thing that I'll be motivated to do for every RPA tool that I can get my hands on. So we'll see what the next RPA tool is that I automate rpachallenge.com with. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next video.